welcome our dear viewers to this very special coverage for the current visit by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to India. The President is the guest of honors to India's Republic Day. Earlier today, President Sisi held a joint press conference with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Following the meeting, President Sisi reiterated that the two sides asserted keenness on enhancing bilateral strategic relations in the coming period. To shed more light on the visit, we have the following story.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi arrived in New Delhi on Tuesday at an invitation from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to participate in celebrations marking India's Republic Day on January 26. India's Republic Day marks the date on which the Constitution of India came into effect on January 26, 1950. In a statement on Tuesday, presidential spokesperson Basim Rodi said that the president's participation in the event reflects the close ties between the two countries and India's deep appreciation of the Egyptian leadership and government, adding the president will be the main guest of honor in the celebration. The spokesman said it also demonstrates the deep interest of the Indian side in strengthening cooperation between the two friendly countries in their capacity as one of the most important emerging countries and in light of their vital role on the regional and international arenas. The spokesman added that President Sisi's visit to New Delhi coincides with the 75th anniversary of establishing diplomatic ties between Egypt and India. Rodi said that during this visit, President Sisi is scheduled to meet with a number of officials in India. He added that the visit will include President Sisi's meeting with heads and representatives of a number of major companies in various domains to discuss mechanisms for consolidating economic ties between the two sides and investment opportunities in Egypt. Egypt and India were co-founders of the non-aligned movement in the 1950s.
And to shed more light on the very important visit by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to India, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Ambassador Bayoumi, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you.
At the beginning, sir, how do you see the importance of the visit by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to New Delhi, India, and his participation there as the guest of honor to India's Republic Day?
I see it a good continuation of very good old relations. In my age, I have witnessed the special relations between Mustafa Pasha in Nahas, our Prime Minister, and Gandhi and Nehru. Then the special relations between our President Gamal Abdel Nasser and Nehru. Krishna Menon, by that time, the Foreign Minister of India, was one of the very close friends of President Nasser and a very good advisor also. Then by that time, Nasser, Nehru, Tito in Yugoslavia, Sukarno of Indonesia and other leaders established the non-aligned movement, which was a courageous political step from the Third World. And also we established what we call the Group of 77,
yes,
which is the group of the developing countries.
Yes.
The name is 77, but actually they are 139 now. This is one very important and the largest voting group in the United Nations Council, General Council, General Assembly.
Yes.
Since then we make our relations with India closer and closer. During presidency at that time, we signed an agreement, which you call it the tripartite agreement, between Egypt, Yugoslavia, and India, which was one of the first free trade agreements in the Third World, where we make the trade among the three countries free totally out of any custom duties or any trade barriers. But after the collapse of Yugoslavia and India went a little bit far from us, that was a little bit diminishing. Now we have a very active diplomacy, especially the presidential diplomacy, which is very strong. We are restoring all these files with Eastern Europe, with India, with China, and still we are keeping good relations with Europe and United States and so on. So India is becoming very soon the largest populated country in the world. It will exceed China in number.
Yes.
And it is a very good market for us. It is also an old cooperation in several industries.
Yes.
And even in some military industries, we were making the one plane, which you call it Cairo 2, where we were making the body, and India was making the motor. Several occasions we have this sort of relations. Also on the diplomatic level,
Yes.
we look to each other with very esteemed opinion. We respect very much the Indian diplomacy, and they look at us as a very important diplomacy in the world, which can affect all the neighbor around it. And that's why we have to be glad and satisfied that we are going to establish or making this relation much better, much deeper, much wider.
Indeed. Mr. Ambassador, also the President is visiting India as the guest of honor to India's Republic Day, which is the 75th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between Egypt and India. How do you see this very important attendance by President Sisi as the guest of honor to this very special day?
It is a very nice gesture from India
Yes.
towards Egypt and towards the Egyptian president, because not many people are attending. I mean,
Of course.
not many leaders are there for this special
Yes.
celebration. It means that Egypt means a lot to India, and of course, India means a lot to us. I am really concerned and happy about this very special invitation, and I see that our president is happy about it, and he has a very close consultation with the prime minister, with the president, and I see that with our president there are some ministers which will join all his meetings. This is very important, and now we are exploring the future, how we are going to strengthen this relation, and in which fields we can do that.
Yes. Also, the president, since he took office, did visit India in 2015 and 2016. These visits also gave further impetus to the bilateral relations, and it was, of course, highlighted by the current visit in 2023.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. It is a matter of continuous relations, and I as a diplomat, I feel satisfied when I see that the meetings are coming in a shorter period.
Yeah.
And now they decided also to establish a common committee to follow the relations between Egypt and India. This sort of committee, it has usually it has at least one meeting a year between the several ministers concerned about the relations. So it is one way to make sure that our relation will continue in the right direction.
Indeed. Sir, addressing journalists at the Indian Presidential Palace, President Sisi said that Egypt and India aspire to achieve common goals in various fields based on the historical ties and the enormous potential enjoyed by both countries. What are the most important topics here the President tackled, and what are the most important points here in the agenda of the talks?
It was a sort of exploring our worries and our aims also. Our worries that we are living two challenges on the international level. whether the economic impact of the corona disease
Yes.
or the economic impact of the war in Ukraine,
Yeah.
which affected us negatively in the field of food supplies. But on the field of energy, I think Egypt in a better situation because Europe, which is the main client of Russia and Ukraine concerning the gas, now Europe is depending on many countries, among them Egypt, of course, because Europe started to accept and to encourage us to be a center to export all sorts of energy, whether it is electricity, and now we are building a line from Egypt to Greece in order to export our electricity to Europe. The gas of the East Mediterranean is very important now for Europe, and Egypt is doing, in my opinion, a fine job concerning this.
Yes. Sir, also during the press conference, President Sisi said that the talks tackled means of fostering cooperation in various domains that included agriculture, education, chemical industry, medicine, and information technology. How do you see these domains that both countries are expected to increase their cooperation in?
Here we come to the level of bilateral relations.
Yes.
We already discussed the international worries. Now we are discussing the direct and the bilateral relations between the two countries. And of course, I expect the President and the Prime Minister to tell us which fields we are giving priority.
Yes.
And as you rightly said, here we have the information technology. India made a tremendous improvement there. And Egypt started this recently, where we are exporting from Egypt computer programs by $5 billion annually now.
Yes.
And I hope I would expect this to be 10 times this size, because it needs only good heads of our young generation to do this job. It doesn't need big capital or investment.
Yes.
And also I expect to that the cooperation include industry, car industries, for instance, maybe airplanes, small airplanes, and so on.
Yes.
Many fields are there. Agriculture is another field, and we appreciate very much that India supplied us lately with some cereals. Egypt supplied India during the epidemic of corona with some medicine shipments.
Yes.
So the fields are many, and we have to make sure that we are on the right track.
Yes. How do you evaluate here the economic cooperation between both countries over the past 75 years, which is the start of the diplomatic ties between both states?
It was going, in general, it was going up and direct. We have some shade on this relation during the time when President Sadat decided to establish the peace process. And by that time, Indira Gandhi, she had a position not very taking our position in consideration.
Yes.
Even when Sadat was killed, she was not very much correct about talking about the Sadat's death.
Yes.
That put some shades on our relations. Now we are restoring the good relations, because at the end of the day, we both of us, India and Egypt, have interest in establishing good relations, and we come back to normal, good relations between the two countries.
Sir, actually the bilateral relation in the trade field has been on an upswing in the last few years, as it has achieved a record high of $7.26 billion in 2021-2022. What's your take on that, and what more do we expect during the coming period?
I always say that this is good, but not good enough. It does not represent the real power of Egypt or India. We can double this easily in the coming few years within our efforts to make our goal for exports to reach $100 billion. And we have also one sector we rarely discuss it, which is a culture sector.
Yes.
We do not give enough attention that India, although they are, after all, they have their own religions, but the number of Muslims in India makes it one of the largest Islamic countries. It is exceeding many Muslim countries in number, even more than Egypt. And we have seen that the president of India some years ago was a Muslim lady. So this sector also, it would include our education relations, especially with Al-Azhar al-Sharif.
Yes.
And we should take care of this, because this is it gives the personal touch.
Yeah.
When somebody is educated in our schools or our Azhar universities, this would help also to make us closer even in the culture, in dealing with all the details of our relations.
Yes. That would bring me to ask about the expectations here of the Indian investment in Egypt. How we can attract more Indian investment in Egypt in the coming period.
This is also very important point,
Indeed,
very,
yes.
very important. And the same as China.
Yes.
We are calling China because it's very far from Europe to come to invest in the Suez Canal zone or any other place. But Suez Canal is the first candidature because it's a free industrial zone, so they can produce their commodities and have then several privileges. First, they will be very near to the European market. Second, that if they produce their commodities in Egypt then and have a sort of certificate of origin in Egypt, then they can export to the Arab world, to Africa, and to Europe, exempted from any custom duties, because we have three large free trade areas with the Arab League countries, with the African Union, and with the European Union. We have a market of 2 billion inhabitants, which is really a good attraction for this. Also, we have the organized labor, and we have plenty of trained labor in Egypt, and this also a good source to attract investment. We have energy, we have the necessary land, our transport system is not bad at all. So all these factors can attract more and more Indian investment.
Indeed. Mr. Ambassador, also moving to the statement which was issued earlier today during the press conference, or given by the President during the press conference, which is about the talks that focused on the joint effort to face terrorism and extremism, as well as the current challenges. What is your take on that, Mr. Ambassador?
Here we are tackling a very important issue with all our agreements, with all our partners. Our agreement with Europe, with Arabs, and with Africans include that all the parties will fight against organized crime. We call it like that. Yes. Organized crime is drug trafficking, it is money laundering, it is terrorism, and also illegal migration. All these four crimes, we are against it, and thank God that Egypt is doing a very fine job, and we are welcomed in Europe by telling us quite a couple of days ago, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Italy was mentioning that Egypt is doing a good job concerning all this, which makes us a good partner to all our friends and country friends.
Yes. Ambassador Bayoumi also, during the meeting, the President and the Prime Minister reviewed the outcomes of the COP27 And Egypt was invited to participate in the G20 meeting for 2023, which is under the presidency of India. How do you see this invitation?
It is very important that we witness all these meetings, because this is what I call the board of directors of the world. They have almost 80% of the international trade and 65% of the world wealth.
Yes.
So whatever they discuss, it is very necessary for us to listen and to also to tell them what is our position concerning each of those files. And here it is really a privilege for our country and our president to be there. And mind you that not many countries are invited,
Yes.
besides the 20. So it is a sort to give us a sign that other countries, the G20 and the India, are looking to us positively, that we can always present ourselves and talk about what is going on in
Of
the
course.
developing countries,
Yes.
and to exchange views and exchange experience.
Yes, indeed. Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Always a pleasure to listen to your precious input, sir. Thank you so much for being our guest for today. Our dear viewers, Egypt and India are two ancient civilizations that have withstood the ravages of time and invading armies. The two nations have had ties since early times, and the friendship is stronger than ever. There is a mutual respect and recognition of each other's power and prominence, and the benefit in harnessing them for both for their own protection and for their own economic gains. It is vital that the two nations go from strength to strength in their relationship.